Welcome, everyone. This presentation is the fifth grade information to families who have children transitioning to the middle school. My name is Lorna Gilmore, and I am part of the Family Partnership Group. I'm a Family Partnership Specialist in the Issaquah School District. Yeah.
And my name is Young Cheng Miller. I'm one of the school counselors. I'm at Pin Lake Middle School.
Thank you. So the purpose of this session is to support families who are unfamiliar with the Issaquah School District middle school system and programs, since they either attended schools outside of the United States, other areas in the United States, or maybe they're coming from private schools or homeschools. Middle school can be a very different experience, and for some, a very overwhelming experience. So we want to make sure that all our families feel comfortable and understand the opportunities and the programs and processes in middle school, so no one feels left behind, left out, or unsure and uncertain. One of the key things I hope you all understand or see as we are going through this presentation is there's a lot of support in the Issaquah School District. There's a lot of information on the school website, and sometimes it's just trying to figure out how to get that information. So this presentation is part of the way to provide information to families who are interested in learning more about the middle schools. So the Issaquah School District is composed of 27 schools, which includes our three comprehensive high schools, Skyline, Liberty, and Issaquah High School. If everyone would mind turning off their cameras, please. Also, we have a project-based high school, which is Gibson Eck. We have 6 middle schools and 16 elementary schools. In addition, we support the Echo Glen, which is for students, juveniles who have gotten in trouble with the legal system. So the school district covers a really large area. We cover area that is all of Issaquah, parts of Bellevue, Sammamish, Newcastle, Renton, Preston, and many unincorporated King County areas. And that information is actually relevant because especially on snow days, you'll notice that the school district might close because one part of the school district is really heavy snow there, and another part might not be touched or phased at all. So just know that. Our school district is also very diverse. We currently have about 18,500 students in the Issaquah School District. So as I said earlier, I'm part of the family partnership team, and our role is to support our families who might need support in learning how to navigate the system, where our primary goal is to remove barriers to ensure that students can access information and families can access information. In that, we have 3 liaisons who are basically, we call them boots on the ground, meaning they work at the school. So Lena Marin, Liliana Medina, and Winley Mittel work at the middle school. So when you are at the middle schools next year, if you have questions, you are welcome to reach out to them and they can meet with you, they can answer questions, they can help you try to figure out and navigate the school system, because one of the biggest barriers sometimes is just trying to figure out, what do I do next? Who do I call? Who do I contact? And very often people have a lot of hesitancy in reaching out to Young because she's the school counselor or the principal or someone. They might feel hesitant or afraid that someone might judge them, which no one would. But the liaison is just the easier person. They're the family liaison. They're there to literally help you, the parent. So please never feel hesitant about reaching out to the liaisons for any questions you have. They also provide resources for families that might need financial resources, resources in the community. If something is going on in their family and they have questions. So we also can help connect with community resources, but our main job is to help families navigate and understand the school system, processes, and programs. So which school will my child attend? So everyone in the elementary school, so all of you have a child in one of our elementary schools. So your child is going to follow something that's called a feeder pattern. So when you enrolled in your school, it was already determined what middle school and what high school your child would be attending. And that means that you don't have to apply and get accepted in that middle school, nor do you have to worry and be scared that you might not be accepted at the high school. Your child is guaranteed admission to the schools in your feeder pattern. So if your feeder pattern school is Maywood, your child is guaranteed to go to Maywood and then to Liberty. Now, if you're unclear, because as you note, there are some schools that have a small percentage, anywhere from 5 to 20% that attends a different school. For example, Issaquah Valley. While most of the kids do attend Issaquah Middle School, we do have a percentage that goes to Cougar Mountain. And if you're wondering if you're one of that, if your child is one of that part of that percentage, contact the school registrar and she can clarify exactly what your middle school is because they already have that information written down. In addition, if you move, you need to double check what your new school boundary is. Because if you move, your boundary might change, which means that you will then become eligible to go to another middle school. Now, next year, all of our schools, except our high schools, and with the exception of two of our middle school, two or three of our elementary schools, will have open enrollment, which means should you choose, you can choose for your child, even if you're already attending an Issaquah School District middle school, you can choose for your child to attend a different middle school. And to do that, you need to fill out the open enrollment form. And there's more information on that on the website. And if parents have questions about that, I can answer them at the end of the session. But note that you will be moving with your feeder pattern. Moving from Issaquah the ISD elementary to the middle school. Now, this process is automatic. All of your child's paperwork, enrollment forms, all of that stuff is being transferred now to the middle school. Parents do not need to re-register or re-enroll their child in the middle school. However, in August, just like you did every year, you will have to do something called EVP, Enrollment Verification Process. There are going to be most likely a few more forms than you had in elementary school for this part, but you're going to be doing that in August, mid-August, usually around there. In addition, next month, end of this month, early in March, you're going to be invited by the middle schools to do something called course selection. The middle school counselors, Young will be part of the group at Pine Lake, will be doing a presentation about courses at Pine Lake Middle School. And so all of your children in elementary schools will also take a field trip to go and visit the middle schools. That gives them a great perspective as to what to expect when they go there. They do a tour of the school. They see all the different aspects of the school. The music programs usually perform for them. So it's a great introduction for them to do that. Transportation. If your child currently receives transportation, just note it's not guaranteed that they will have transportation next year. It depends on how far away they live from the middle school. So some kids who did not have transportation this year, if they live more than a mile, they may have transportation. Some kids who got transportation this year, but because they live too close to the middle school, may not be eligible for transportation. In any case, your address has automatically been given to our transportation department, and our transportation department is then entering all of this information and creating the new bus routes for next year's students with your bus number. So sometime in mid to late August, you will be able to go to the transportation website and go to the e-routes and look e-link and look at your child's transportation route. So you can tell what time the bus will pick them up and what time the bus will bring them home. Lunch account, same thing. The lunch number stays the same. So hopefully they've memorized it. That number will stay with them all the way till high school. If you have any money in the account, no worries. That money will carry on to middle school. If you have any fees, you will also need to make sure you pay for that. If your child is eligible for free and reduced meals, you do need to fill out that form before October so you can be re-enrolled in that program if you're eligible. But then the same process will work for those children who are eligible for free and reduced lunch. The one difference for lunches in middle school is there are more lunch options. There are actually at least two big ones. There's a hot lunch, and then there's another lunch option usually. And there's also more a la carte options where they can buy some items a la carte. So please make sure you look at the website for the lunch options. Also, if your child was in Merlin or Sage, middle school does have a highly capable program, but it might look different. So it's mainly integrated in the secondary schools in sixth grade, and all the classes are self-selected. Finally, if your child has an IEP, if your child has an IEP, 504, or a health plan, that plan or accommodation will follow your child to the middle school. And this is very important because many parents may have concerns. For example, hopefully those of you with an IEP, with a child with an IEP plan, you or your spouse is attending the IEP transition event that is happening right now and at 7 o'clock. But the 504 plans, the fifth grade counselors will be meeting up with the sixth grade counselors. And then the two counselors talk about the children who have 504 plans and transfer the information. And then when your child is in sixth grade, their 504 plan is then inputted into the family access. And all, I know it seems really scary because they only had one teacher, primary teacher in middle elementary school, and now they're going to middle school and they have six teachers. How will the six teachers know this? Well, the six teachers will have access to the 504 plan and they can review and read the 504 plan. And the counselors also remind teachers about 504 plans of students in their class. In addition, sometime through the course of the year, you will then have a meeting with your child's teachers to review the 504 plan. Health plan, same thing. The elementary nurses meet with the middle school nurses to discuss health plans, especially for students who have severe allergies, asthma, diabetes, and other critical health needs. And if you have any concerns in addition to that, I would recommend at the end of August, you reach out to your school nurse and share your concerns with them, especially anything about medications or anything going on as your child is transitioning to sixth grade. So again, there is a nice smooth transition from elementary to middle school for your child.
So I think everyone gets nervous about middle school because it's a new setting and a big transition for students. But remember that millions and millions of sixth graders have come into our building. So we know that they will definitely get it within the first few weeks. But yeah, it's a new place. They're dealing with a new building and navigating around that building. They're meeting new people, both teachers and new students, because most of our middle schools are having either two or more elementary school cohorts coming in. They're dealing with new procedures. Some schools use lockers. They're switching classrooms every period. Different teachers will have different class expectations. And then we do trust them to have more independence. And we do this because we know that they're capable. So, there is a lot of newness, but just keep reminding your student, you will get it probably sooner than they think. It's very normal to be nervous, but hopefully they're coming in with a mix of both nervousness and excitement. This is also a time when they're both, just biologically, there's a lot of growth and development happening. So, again, with all this newness, it is tough for some of our kiddos, but it does level out. I think we see kind of a mix of like students who like are nervous, but like it's fine. Students who get really nervous and then it's fine. Students who take a little bit a while to transition, but they do all get it. So I just want to encourage you that they are able to handle it.
And I'm just going to chime in here temporarily and just say I was a middle school science teacher who taught sixth grade for 15 years. I had my share of very many nervous students coming in. You had kids who'd sometimes wander around the hallways, not sure, or kids stuck in the hallways because their lockers couldn't open or they weren't sure how to open their locker. And just so you know, we have been going through this as teachers, as a school for literally decades, if not nearly 100 years for a couple of
Mhm.
schools. And so we are ready for it. We have systems in place. Teachers are at the doorway, teachers are opening lockers, teachers are helping kids navigate and get from classroom to classroom, volunteers around. So there's a lot of supports built in. And this is also a great time for students to build their independence. As a fifth grade dean for several years, many of our fifth graders, especially by the end of the year, are chomping at the bit. They are ready to get out. They are tired of being with the same classmates for 6 years. They want other people. And so this is a great time. They are so excited to be with all of these different kids. It is overwhelming, 100%. I see that. But note that the school will take time. It's not like the first week, oh, you're tardy, we're going to punish you. Da, 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 da. No, the school takes time. It takes at least a week or two, if not a little longer, for the teachers and the school to help kids learn systems. So systems are taught very deliberately through the course of the first 2 weeks to help our students through this transition. I know for parents it's a lot harder because you don't know what's going on, but I just want to give you some behind the scenes information.
Yeah, so like Lorna mentioned, we are encouraging and expecting more students to become more independent learners. They're practicing how to self-advocate for themselves when talking with teachers and other staff. They're navigating maybe new social situations, right? It might be the first time where they have to be like the new kid, right? Or have to kind of deal with being new or just becoming more comfortable in new situations. They might be learning to communicate more directly with teachers and asking for help. And they're definitely learning to manage their workload and just the LMS system that we use at the middle school level. And then we are really encouraging parents and caregivers. Like, obviously, you're going to continue to kind of be a coach and mentoring your students, especially with things that might be a little bit new, like emailing teachers about a question or making sure that they know how to navigate on their Canvas and they're actually turning in all assignments, right? This might be the first time for some of the for the fifth grade students that they have regular homework. It's not a lot. I would say like most kids are able to finish it, but they usually have at least like math homework every night. Um, and teachers try to make it as easy as possible to turn that in, right? They might not have like a due date until the end of the week for all the week's assignments. But they do have to like figure out like a system that works for them and that works for you and your family. So, mhm,
1 second.
mhm.
I got a couple people saying the link wasn't working. We'll share it again, but we'll double check it at the end of the session, just make sure it's working. And Young, if you wouldn't mind testing it as I'm doing the next 2 or 3 slides.
Mhm.
Okay. And so, oh, Young, you're going to do this one too. Sorry.
Yep, sorry. And it looks, it's still working for me.
Okay.
Yeah. And so they're developing different rhythms at the middle school level. So you'll see we kind of made a little chart here so you could kind of get a sense of like in elementary school, you know, they're used to being with one teacher and the same group of students all year. You guys get early release Wednesdays. They might see a specialist once a week for different specialists. They have recess, right? And then most of the materials are kept in the classroom. So in middle school, they'll definitely have different classes each period with a different teacher. And we do have something called homeroom or advisory, which we'll talk about a little bit later. We have late start Wednesdays. And then you're choosing an elective or an elective rotation that they'll do for at least a trimester, if not longer. And then we don't have a formal recess, but they get passing period between classes and then have a little bit longer lunchtime so they can hopefully eat and also have a chance to hang out with friends or socialize. And then lunchtime, there's microwaves again, kind of that sense of independence. So both like there's obviously hot lunch options. They have microwaves. We might offer a little bit more freedom in like where they can sit in the building, things like that. And then they're going to be more in charge of their own materials and their supplies. So you do want to be thinking about like, hey, how am I helping my student be more like responsible for their materials and things?
Thank you. And just a couple notes, the lunchtime, it is a longer lunch period. It's nearly 30 minutes. And in
Mhm.
most schools, after the first 15 minutes, they allow the kids the option to go to an area to kind of play or hang out or do something more to kind of just stretch their legs. So they do have that option. But the kids are moving every 15 minutes or so. And so there's not as much of a need for recess, especially if it's one of the trimesters where they have PE. I just wanted to make sure you all note that student materials, there is something called a supply list, even at middle schools. And all of the supply lists are posted on the website. So each of the schools that's going to be in the same place. So if you look at the top tab under academics, you will find supply list, and it's going to be broken down. For some schools, it'll be by sixth, seventh, and eighth grade. Other schools, it's just one general one. And you'll note, in my opinion, as a parent of a middle schooler, or two children who've gone through middle school in the ISD, I feel like the supply list is a little bit less in middle school than in high school. And usually you don't have to buy new stuff each year. The same thing, my kids use the same thing year after year because a lot of their work is done on their laptops.
Mhm.
So the bell schedule, I find this website very helpful. All of the six middle schools have the bell schedule posted. And one thing to note of the bell schedule is that Wednesday it's going to look different. So on Wednesday, you're going to note that school starts late. So Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, it'll start at a certain time. Um, Note, you should check your own school's website for that because I know IMS starts at 8:15 for class time. And then on Wednesday, school starts around 10:10 or 10:20, depending on the school. And you'll notice they have a homeroom. Okay. Most of the schools start with homeroom, and then they're going to go to periods 1, 2, 3, lunch somewhere there around period 4, and then 5 and 6. Sometimes in some schools, I know at IMS, they call homeroom period 1, and then they say they have 7 periods. But be aware what your child is calling the different periods, but note that all of the schools have 6 core classes plus a homeroom class. Okay, so all of the schools have 6 core classes plus a homeroom class. So if you even look at the schedule for PCMS, it'll be living under the same place under our school bell schedule. All of the websites, even though they're different schools, they're all designed the same. So you
Mhm.
will see that it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then they call it Links Life, and they have it at the end. So it's 6 core classes plus their homeroom. This time it's called Links Life. So they might call it something different. And lunch is usually around the fourth period of the day. Notice that they also have all of the 2 hour late starts, grading day, early release days, all of that posted on this. So it's very helpful. In addition, in family access, when school starts in late August, early September, you will find your child's schedule on family access. And on your child's schedule itself, it lists the time that your child is in different period classes. That is helpful to note for you, just a hint and a tip, so that when you're doing doctor's appointment or if you need to do an early pickup or late arrival, you'll know what period class your child's going to be missing or coming out of, or what class they're going to be missing. So I use that when I'm making a dentist or a doctor's appointment with my children. The Wednesday late start was the biggest change and difference for most sixth graders. I will say that middle school and high school kids begin to love it. That's the day they get to finally sleep in late because school starts late. The only downside of it is they also come home later. And I know as a parent, it was kind of surprising for me to have to wait for my kid to come home. She usually came home after me, and that was different. So that's different for Wednesdays. There are a few more early dismissal days in middle school. At the end of each semester is an early dismissal day. And then you also have modified schedule days for iReady testing or SBA testing. And the school schedule, your child's schedule and the names of their teachers and everything will be available in family access, usually the day before school starts. There is no meet the teacher kind of day in middle school. So when it gets posted, very often they recommend that the child print their schedule, or when they go to school, the first day of school, they most likely will give them the schedule so they know what classes to go to. And the lunch period is usually based on specific grade level or the class. But most schools in general, they keep all the sixth graders together for their own sixth grade lunch because they're sixth graders and they want them to spend more time together. And so all the sixth graders usually have lunch together. Most schools have two lunches. Some schools may have three if they need to, but most schools have two lunches. So the calendar. The district calendar has already been posted. Here is a draft for next year. And so just keep that in mind because as middle school starts, attendance is critical. The one big difference for middle school, which is different from elementary and then again in high school, is that in middle school, the school year is divided into trimesters. So every 12 weeks, the students will get a report card that's going to be available in Skyward, just like in elementary school. But the school year is divided into trimesters, not semester. So sometime at the end of November is the end of the first trimester, and then in mid-March is usually the end of the second trimester, and then when school ends will be the end of the third trimester. So keep that noted. And teachers will be updating, posting the grades in family access at the end of each semester. Trimester, sorry. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Young, do you want to take this?
Mm-hmm. So looking at a typical day for your student, everyone will have 6 or 7 periods depending on how they're labeled. So usually I say there's 6 classes plus homeroom. So we have your 4 core classes: social studies, English language arts, math, and then science. And then each class is approximately 50 minutes long with that 4 to 5 minute transition between periods. They will get used to it. They can get there in 4 to 5 minutes, I promise, right? And then they have homeroom Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. This varies a little bit from building to building. So for example, at Pine Lake, and I know at Beaver Lake, they have an extra Wednesday homeroom time that's a little bit longer. And this time covers things like the weekly social emotional lesson. There might be ASB meetings, which we'll talk about in a little bit. We cover morning announcements. Sometimes we have test makeups during that time. So those are some examples of how we use that time. And then they will have one elective period, and we'll talk about some of those options a little bit later on. It does vary a little bit between each of the middle schools. And then they will have one PE and health rotation. So instead of having PE, again, like certain days of the week, like in elementary, they'll have it for 2 full trimesters, and then they'll have 1 trimester off and instead have a health class.
Yeah. Perfect. Just a couple things. I know I have the word ASB and it doesn't have any definition. No worries. We'll define ASB coming up. Also, someone asked, how long is lunch? Lunch is approximately 30 minutes. Each period is approximately 50 minutes. And homeroom is approximately 20 minutes. One of the key things to note is homeroom is for school business, SEL, which is social emotional learning, and announcements. But the homeroom teacher is not their core. I know in some countries, a homeroom teacher is like the main teacher, where if you have problems or issues, you send an email to that homeroom teacher and then they'll connect with the teacher. In our school, in the US, in Issaquah School District, if there's a concern with your child, you're not going to email the homeroom teacher. You're going to email the classroom teachers that the problem you have a concern with, or the school counselor. And the school counselor can help you connect with all the teachers. So the homeroom teacher is a different concept. They're not really responsible and like the main teacher for your child to to do their business and report absences and so forth. Okay, and so just that's a slightly different concept. What does it mean by connecting with teachers? For homeroom, sometimes, for example, your child might have a makeup test or need to drop something to the teacher. So there will be time for them to run that errand and drop the handout to the office or to go and see this other teacher about a question they have, or maybe they need like a quick 5 minute check in. So the homeroom teacher in that homeroom time, they might allow the student to do these different things. In
Mhm.
addition, sometimes during homeroom, they might catch up on homework or reading. So, homeroom is basically the time where different things are being done, and it's used differently um, most of the time. Okay, so uh, next one is okay, go ahead.
So
Yeah.
just giving a general overview of what classes and grades look like. So class sizes, we wrote down 24 to 35. They really can vary a bit more depending on the type of class. But especially for advanced classes, they tend to be larger. So I would expect them to be at least around 30 students. And then core classes and homeroom stay the same throughout the year. So, they would have the same math or science teacher throughout the whole year. It can change for elective classes. And again, we'll talk about that in a little bit. And as Lorna mentioned earlier, because we run on a trimester schedule, they are getting grades every 12 weeks, available usually 1 week after the end of the trimester. And to make sure that you are able to have some visibility into that, we use a program called Canvas, and there will be kind of updates along the way, but teachers are required to give an update at the 6 week period. And that's just kind of so like how is your student progressing. You'll be able to see like how are they doing on their assessments, how are they doing with their homework turn in, things like that. Am I doing this one?
Yes.
Okay. So as I mentioned, like there's 4 core subjects. When you get to the middle school level, there's a little bit more choice that you have for course selection. But every school will have like a course selection or course request process time, and that will be in early March for most of the schools, for most of the middle schools. And you'll be choosing language arts, either a regular grade level class or an advanced language arts option. Social studies is the same for all students. You'll be able to choose your student's math pathway and science pathway, and then what elective you would like them to have. And the electives do vary by the schools, but the ones that are common for all schools are band, orchestra, and chorus. Those are all considered year-long electives because they are throughout the whole year. And then most schools have another trimester rotation elective where they're choosing 3 different electives that they get to do for 1 trimester each. So for example, at Pine Lake, we have art, computer science 1, and intro to wood shop. So every trimester they do one of those classes for 1 trimester long. So you might have wood shop for the fall, art in the winter, and then computer science in the spring. And that's like their trimester rotation. If they're not doing a year long, that's the option. And yeah, we can leave that at that.
So, a couple things I'm going to note. All students have the option to take band or orchestra. And for me, one of the joys of middle school is the fact that a child with absolutely no instrument experience can take one of those 2 classes and then they can learn from scratch how to play an instrument. So it is amazing to me that how the band and orchestra teachers can take a group of 30, 40 kids, and by the end of 3 months they'll do a performance performing these different instruments, and you will be shocked how good your child is. And by the end of 3 years, or even the first year, sixth grade, they make so much progress. It's quite impressive. So the instruments, that some of the larger instruments you can rent from the school. And also, if you don't want to buy the instrument the first year because you don't know if your kid is going to continue on playing that instrument, there are a couple places in the Issaquah area that rent an instrument for a fee. And if you can't afford that because your family is on free and reduced lunch or have financial difficulties, you can also apply for a scholarship with the school. So keep that in mind. In PE and health, many people are asking a lot of questions about that. PE is every single day for 12 weeks, which means every single day for 12 weeks, they're going to go to school, they're going to go to the PE locker during the PE class, they're going to change their clothes, they're going to put their PE uniform, they're going to participate in some kind of organized activity with their PE teacher, go back to their locker, change their clothes, the locker room that is, and then change again, get their stuff, and go to their next class. And that just happens every day for two sections of 12 weeks because it's two trimesters. And then one trimester, they will have their health class. Social studies, there's really no options. It's a same thing. A lot of people are asking about the pathway. In science, you do have a pathway question, which is you're going to take the life science, which is a regular pathway, or you're going to take the earth um, and space science, which is a different pathway. The reason we're not talking too much of the different pathways is the school district has not released the course guides for next year yet. But I am going to share with you where you can find some of this information. See, you'll note that this is for this year, and next year's one is not coming out till after our mid-winter break. So if you go to the middle school course guide, you will see some information shared over here. So this is one of the key things to read about because many parents have lots and lots of questions and are trying to figure out how to choose their classes for their child. We do give some tips later on, but here's some information about the advanced options for sixth grade. Here are some of the different classes they'll take. If they're advanced, they might take advanced English, or if they want to advance science, they might take the earth and space science. And if they want to advance their math, they might take, instead of math one, they might take a combination of math 1, 2, or math 2, 3. Math 1, 2 is all your math 1 plus half of math 2. So it goes much faster. And so those are the different ones. And parents are going to ask a lot of questions. And just note, you're going to be able to read all of that when they share that information with you. But note, you have 6 classes. One class will be language arts, one will be social studies, no option. Every kid takes the same one. One math, and there are several options there as you saw over here, at least 4 different math classes you could potentially take. Science, there are 2, either earth science or life science. Everyone will take PE or they might get health, and then everyone will take elective class. And that elective may be the course or band or orchestra.
I do want to point out that the district is trying to create lots of areas for or lots of on-ramps for people to choose advanced options. So don't feel like they have to do all the advanced options in sixth grade. There is room for adjustment in different ways because there are lots of linear options in teaching and learning, but kids don't develop like that, right? They develop in like little spurts or big spurts, like in terms of development. So some kids might need a little bit more time to adjust or to kind of learn how to handle the workload. Some kids might be ready for a little bit more right now. So, but again, the district is trying to create lots of on-ramps for those opportunities. So don't feel like you have to do them right now. It's something that you could talk to the school counselor about. Like, hey, I think that they want to do this. What are some options in the future, or how might that impact in the future? The areas that you want to give the most thought are going to be the math and the science pathways. And we really, really encourage you to look at what your school's course request process is saying about that. So we try to be very clear. Again, there's district guidelines around it. And those guidelines are really based on the experience that our students have had and that we've had. And so I really implore you to look at those carefully and also to talk with the fifth grade teacher, right? You know your students in the context of home, one-on-one learning, but they see your student like in a classroom setting, right? So they're gonna know best, like, hey, how do they work like in a school setting? What's their capacity? What's their how are they even compared to other students?
And the district is going to be, when the course guides come out with more recommendations and
Mhm.
guidelines. Okay,
Mhm.
and we'll talk about that soon. One question a parent asked that I'm going to let you know is um, there is no foreign language elective in sixth and seventh grade. That
Mhm.
only becomes an elective in eighth grade. And not all kids take a foreign language in eighth grade. Most kids wait for high school to take that, but it becomes an option in eighth grade. So right now you only have to worry about sixth grade classes. And when the course guide comes out, they'll also release like the full flow, because many parents are like, well, what does it mean? I want my child to be in calculus in 12th grade. Will they get to calculus in 10th grade? And so when the course guide comes out, they will show you a diagram that has a flow. Like sixth grade, if they take this, what will they end up in 12th grade? So you can see that. And
Mhm.
same thing in science. I'm going to give you a disclaimer. As a science teacher for 19 years, very often kids skip life science and they go straight to earth science. I always thought that was a disservice for the students, because if you just take life science, sixth grade, earth science, seventh grade, and physical science in eighth grade, they get the full spectrum of science, because in elementary school, they don't really have science as a class for more than, like, I think it's like 4 or 5 weeks or something. So this time they get exposed to learning science every day. They get to do a lab dissection in sixth grade. They get to do a really great things. But here's the key. The biology book they use, if your child is accelerating and takes eighth grade biology because they skipped the sixth grade biology, please make sure that your child can read at a 10th grade level, because that biology book is written for 10th graders. Throughout the country, biology is taught in 10th grade. Our district decided to accelerate all our students because our parents were asking for it. And as a result, we started teaching biology in ninth grade. So if you choose to take biology in eighth grade, you're double accelerating, and your child may have problems reading that biology book in eighth grade. So very often we see that kids who would normally be a A student was getting a B in biology because they had accelerated a bit too quickly. And what that means is when they get the B in biology, they might not be ready for chemistry in ninth grade, because chemistry is very hard. And very often they end up not taking a science or taking a different science, or some of them retake biology. So keep those kinds of things in mind. The recommendation is going to be to look at your iReady scores and SBA scores. So keep that very much in mind, and how strong a reader your kid is. It's not that they just love science, they have to be a really strong reader to be able to read the biology book in eighth grade. And this is from me as being a 15-year veteran science teacher in a middle school.
I would say that all our science teachers agree with that as well. And I do want to point out there's a relationship between the science pathways and the math pathways as well. So if your student is not accelerating in math, then the advanced science pathway will not work either. So just keep that in mind. And again, they will get there and they will have more options in the future. Mhm.
Okay. So, one of the big differences, and one of the ways for you as a parent to help your child be successful in middle school, is to read the class syllabus for each class. And this is a very different concept, because in in elementary school, you go to curriculum night and your teacher talks general things about all these different subjects, but it's one teacher for all the subjects. In middle school, you'll note at curriculum night, and if you miss it, it's okay, but you should definitely go to Canvas and read the class syllabus for your child, for all of your child's teachers, because the syllabus is about your teachers, your class teachers' policies regarding missed work. late work, retakes. Okay. And those are all important because some teachers might allow 1 day extra for late work. Some teachers might excuse your late work or change it to a 50 if you've done something. So there are different things that teachers might do. It's their policies. Um, and so a math teacher's classroom policies may be different than a social studies classroom policies. So you need to be familiar with these classroom policies. The teacher might also say, if you have questions, email me or come by at this time. And this is going to be a concept for you to note, not just in middle school, but all through high school. The teacher's syllabus is key. In sixth grade, they start very slow. Unless you're taking advanced classes, then you might see more homework, especially, for example, in math. But in sixth grade standard at level classes, you're not going to have too much homework. Most of the homework can be done in class or during homeroom time. And if they do give homework, it should be about 15, maybe 45 minutes a day for all periods. Okay. And then assignments are usually turned into the classroom, via Canvas. Sometimes they take a photo. And how to use Canvas, do not worry. Your child will learn how to use Canvas.
Sorry, you yeah, there
Okay.
you go, Ilona.
Yeah, and so just note that students will be having to turn in the assignments. So homework becomes one of those places where students start forgetting how or don't turn things in, and their grades might go down. So this is where you, as a parent, can start partnering with your child to checking to make sure that they have turned in their homework in Canvas on time, or you can see where they're struggling if they're getting low grades. One of the things about middle school is grades and student progress becomes very transparent. In elementary school, you most likely really didn't see too many progress reports. You probably saw a few of the tests when they took it or scores when they brought it back. But in middle school, you get a lot of information because Canvas is the ability to really see into every single one of your child's classes and what they're doing, how well they're doing. Okay. And so just keep that in mind. Now, the students, you probably all know this, but in middle school, students are all assigned a laptop and students are required to use their school assigned laptop. That's because those laptops have security features on them and they also have automatic links to a lot of the features that the school district is using. So we don't have to worry, does the child have access to this app? Is it going to be blocked for this reason or that reason? Your child is going to be taking their fully charged laptops to school each day. And I'm going to tell you, for my two children, one in middle and one in high, they've never had to charge their laptops at schools. Their laptops stay charged throughout the day. Um, and then you also will have access to textbooks. So in the olden days, when I was teaching, we hadn't had class links where all of the textbooks were digital. Now all of the textbooks are digital, so students have access to all of their textbooks via the class links, a link in their Canvas account. So that's great. You don't need to know all that, it's too high level for you, but note, don't worry, your child is not going to be carrying big textbooks back and forth home. My child only carries a thin folder, their laptop, and their lunch and bottle of water. So that's all they carry to school. They also have access to Office 365, just like they do in elementary school. So they'll have access to, Microsoft, PowerPoint, Excel, and then email, all of that at school. So every day, students go to school, they pull out their laptops, they open it up, they log into their teacher's Canvas page, and they start their day. And they learn that behavior, that process for their classroom teacher in their class. Okay, and there is tech support at each middle school. There's a tech support person. So if your child is having a problem, note that there's someone there. And that's one of the other reasons we don't use their own laptop, because if there's any problems with their own laptop, there's no tech support. So Canvas is what we talked about, the learning management system that students will be using at all the middle schools and high schools. And the good news is it's also used in many universities. So your child will be very well ready as they progress into a college. And you will have your own family account for Canvas, and it's called an observer account, meaning you cannot do your child's homework, you cannot do any kind of online tests, you cannot access the Office 365 or even their textbooks, but your child has access. The only thing you can do is see what's on the calendar, see some of the assignments the teachers have posted, see the answer key, see rubrics, and see their scores. And you will be able to look at all of your children's Canvas accounts using the same family observer account for your children. And teachers very deliberately and slowly teach children in sixth grade how to use Canvas. So some of you might be anxious, oh my goodness, I don't know if my child is going to be able to do this. They will. They will learn. And all of them do it together. And so sixth grade is a time for them all to kind of learn how to do this and learn how to use Canvas. I do a presentation on Canvas for parents like you in September, and we go through the whole process of how to set up your account, how to look at your email, what and get some tips on organizing the database, the dashboard and everything on Canvas. So don't worry, there'll be support for you on Canvas at that time also. A big question parents were asking in the registration form was communication. And how do you communicate and how do you monitor your child's progress? You're going to be monitoring your child's progress through Canvas. The teachers will be posting the grades after they do a homework, their tests. They'll make little notes in the Canvas account, and then you will be able to see that. Teachers sometimes send the whole class a message via Canvas. A couple of the teachers, for example, will say, in the next 2 weeks, we'll be working on this. Students, don't forget to do this, this, and this. Or a teacher might send an email via Canvas saying, don't forget, students, we're doing a review for a test today, and in 2 days, we will be taking a test over this. Here's the study guide, and here are the key highlights you should be studying for. So the teachers will send that, and very often they include parents on these emails, just so that you, as a parent, know that your child should be probably studying for something or something big is coming up. So the teachers have the option to email through Canvas just the students in their class, but most of the time they'll send it to the kids in the class plus the parents. So, as a parent, you should check your child's progress in sixth grade, but I would recommend that you sit with your child those first couple of days and sit with them to say, hey, how are you doing? What do your weekly grades look like? What are your missing assignments? Oh, what does that mean? How can I make it up? So, because it is new for them and they just sometimes need to understand the higher levels, thinking skills, executive function, what happens if I'm missing an assignment? How do I make up an assignment? What happens if I'm absent because I'm sick? Because I'm still expected to turn that in, and the teacher is not going to call me during recess or have a separate time during the course of the day to make it up. So how do I get that assignment and make it up? Because most of the assignments are just posted on Canvas. So the expectation is the student, if they're absent, can go onto Canvas and see what they've missed. Young, am I missing anything?
Well, someone just asked a question, should I get a personal planner for my student? And the answer is maybe. There are ways in Canvas to kind of track assignments. There's a calendar view, there's a to-do list view. You can actually look at assignments by due date. So if it feels like there can be a regular time to check Canvas, and that's kind of enough, that's a great way. If your student has a lot of activities outside of school and they also need to track those things, maybe a different kind of planner would be helpful for them. I think every middle school like offers a planner, but you don't have to use the one that the school offers. So just it's good to kind of think about what is it that your student needs, what kind of system would work for your student. And this is a very like trial, different for every student, should try different options to figure out what is helpful for them. And it can change over the years. So in sixth grade, it might really be enough to have Canvas and maybe like a post-it note, right? To kind of just even track, like, do I have something tonight? But definitely by like seventh and eighth grade, they do need to like have a planner system. But I feel like most sixth graders would say like, you could get away without a planner. So it just kind of depends on your student.
So a couple of questions I'm going to address right now. One was, what is a health class? So a health class is just basic general health. They learn about, smoking, impact of alcohol, nutrition classes there. They take a 2 week flash class. They learn about muscle system. They learn about digestive system, different systems over there. Another parent asked about applying for AP classes. Remember, this is middle school, and so there's no middle school uh, class. Another parent asked, how long is PE? PE is the same, about 50 minutes a day, and they're going to have PE for 2 semesters.
2 trimesters.
Sorry, 2 trimesters. Can a student swap PE for another elective? Not in sixth and seventh grade. In eighth grade, there's an option only if they're taking a Spanish or another class that they have to do that for. But that's a conversation with the eighth grade. But is there a cost to a PE uniform? Yes. When you do your enrollment verification process in August, you will be directed to go to the online portal, and in the online portal, you will buy a PE uniform. Some schools require just the top. Most schools require top and a bottom. It's what your child wants. The top is definitely required.
Oh no, I ready.
Okay. Next question is the electives, and is there room for all students to take electives? And that's the reason we do course selection in March, because actually the main schedule for all teachers is really based on what electives students choose and what classes students choose in March. So the reason we encourage students to do the elective choices so early is it gives the principal and the school an opportunity to create the schedule and make sure there are enough electives so the students can access it. There are times where students are not able to take an elective just because it doesn't fall and fit in their schedule. Just like in college for some of you, maybe you want to take a certain class at 10:30, but 10:30 there was another core class that you wanted to take, and so both classes were being offered at the same time. So you had to choose one. Okay. So sometimes that happens, but they try to really work on that. For those of
Two
you,
more questions that came up about Canvas.
okay,
One is like, are computers used for every class? It just depends. I would say we do use it regularly in our math classes, but for example, like in social studies or science class, it might not be used like super regularly. The other one was like, well, how do you keep students on track? There is a technology monitoring system that teachers have access to, so that helps them to know like what teachers are doing. They can
what
freeze
students? Yeah.
student screens, limit their ability to go to different tabs, et cetera, et cetera.
So we have security and monitoring of student screens, and that's why it's important that students use a school assigned laptop. Um, So one of the reasons, okay, a parent asked, SBA scores are not going to be released till the end of May, early June, so we can't use that. You can use your child's fourth grade scores, but mainly you're going to use your iReady scores to do it. So in the course catalog, you'll notice that they're going to be giving suggestions using iReady scores mainly in course selection. I have a lot of questions on course selection, but I want to get through the slide deck and then we'll talk more specific about that. Is there competitive sports? Yes, we're going to talk about sports and clubs coming up soon. Um, there is no physics per se in middle school, but in eighth grade, if they're on the regular pathway, they will take a class called physical science, which is half the year chemistry and the other half the year physics. And that's a great introduction so that when they go to high school, they're ready for the chemistry in high school and the physics class in high school. Languages in eighth grade, it depends on the school. All the schools have Spanish for sure. Many of the schools have Japanese. So you're going to have to see what your school options are. And that's the website I'll show you that has this information. The schools do have hard copy books, very often, like for me, I ask my child to check out a hard copy book and bring some of the hard copy books and just leave them at home so that the kid can use the hard copy books at home. Very often teachers have some hard copy copies of the book in the classroom also, because some
Mhm.
kids just love it. So the school does have access to hard copies. It's just that we just are trying to get the kids not to carry the books back and forth. So if you do check out a hard copy book, keep it at home. Teachers have them at school. More questions on sports, we'll be addressing them. There is no recording of the classroom, of the class lesson. So if a student is absent, they need to check what assignment they had in class, but there won't be a recording of it. Okay. Flash is sexual health class. And basically, it's the same thing as you do in fifth grade. There's a flash part of your curriculum in fifth grade. I family something, I need to look up what flash, the abbreviation, flash
Yeah.
family something.
Sorry, I don't know either.
Sexual health is a part of it, but it's family something and sexual health.
I think it's life. Yeah,
Yes,
I can
because
look
it
it
can
up while
cover
you're talking.
three. Okay.
Mhm.
Is there cost
It's
advantage?
one unit in health class. Yeah. And you are allowed to, you can't opt out of health class, but you can opt out of the flash unit for your child. I
And
don't believe it's covered until eighth grade though.
yeah, because I know there's a component of it in fifth grade, and parents can opt out of it
Right.
in fifth grade. And I
Mm-hmm.
looked at the school announcements, and they were going to be showing the flash curriculum. So if parents had any concerns, they could opt their child out
Mm-hmm.
right now also.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, the cost and damage to laptops. There is insurance if you think your child is really hard on things, and if you want to buy insurance. Most kids are really good and they learn how to respect. I mean, kids right now are so good with their devices and electronics. So it depends on you and your child if you think you need to buy the insurance for it. Um, where to get help with electives. The reason we haven't explained about electives as much is because each of the schools have their own electives besides the three main ones we talked about. So, for example, in Issaquah Middle, they have a backyard forestry one where they learn and they go walking in the woods. But in Pine Lake, they most likely don't have that, but I know they have a woodworking one that Issaquah Middle doesn't have. So
Mm-hmm.
different schools have different electives. And so it depends. Your child is going to look at those electives, and that's where you'll have time in March to do it when the course catalog comes out, and you'll see what electives your child are going to be offered. Um, okay, we're going to go on to the next slide. We'll come back to questions in a sec. We're just trying to get through. So, just like in elementary school, the school is emailed, communication is emailed every Thursday. It's really important that you look at that because there are a lot of important dates. The teachers do not send out a weekly newsletter like they do in fifth grade. So, the bulletin on Thursday is a key way you're going to find out what's going on. The school announcement in the class is usually celebration, and in school they make announcements like sports season is going to start. If you're interested in volleyball, please come to the gym on Thursday. There'll be tryouts and so forth. So it's important for you to talk to your child about listening to the school announcements because those announcements are made at school every day and you will see them on Thursday. So that's how you will hear about it, but a lot of it is given to the students in school, and you may not be hearing it unless you're going to the website and looking at the website. So again, it says communication from home to home is the school website. So if you're interested in sports and clubs, it's very important that you look at the website because a lot of the sport information, especially, is posted on the website. And the clubs, there'll be announcements. And if your child hears an announcement and they ask you, go to the website or go to the website and ask your child if they're not talking to you about the clubs and when the club meets. Communications from teachers, again, they're very sparse. It's going to be mainly updates through a Canvas. You're not going to get individual emails most likely sent to you because teachers usually have anywhere from 120 to 150 students. So they usually do all class emails using Canvas. This is a big one in middle school. There is no scheduled parent-teacher conference. If you're interested in talking to any of the teachers, you can email the teacher and ask to meet or ask to have a Teams meeting or a phone call. If you have concerns with multiple classes, then you will email the school counselor and schedule a meeting with multiple teachers due to a concern. But otherwise, it's you and communicating with the classroom teacher. But the number one thing we ask is if there's a concern in the class, start with your child. And we'll talk more about that in another slide on tips for parents. PTA, PTSA, just like in elementary school, a good way to get updates. If you're getting the bulletins from the PTA, sometimes they give you a little bit more tips about important dates that are coming up at the school, functions, celebrations, and such. Yeah, I think this is one of your slides. Oh, still my slide. Testing and grading system. So teachers in all classes have tests and quizzes periodically. The SBA test starting in middle school is given every single year, just like in grades 3, 4, and 5. And SBA, for those of you who are not aware, are the Smarter Balanced Assessment. It's a state. It's really national. I think 46 states in the country give that test. And it's usually given in May. There's a grading scale that is school-wide, and it's letter grade based on the percentage your child is earning in class. So this is another big difference for families because just when they're getting used to the 1, 2, 3, 4 grading scale in elementary school, now it's changed. As a math and science teacher, I love the letter grades and percentage because it's a little bit more precise and it also gives you more insight on how your child is doing, and your child can see how they are progressing and where they have struggles helps you also so that they can improve. There is no ranking of students. You do have a grade point average that comes out, and students who have a grade point average of 3.5 and above usually make honor roll. And usually, kids at a certain grade point average, it's usually again 3.5, are invited to join Junior Honor Society. Colleges are not going to see your child's middle school grades, so it's a good time for them to learn. Sometimes they're going to make mistakes, and it's okay. They're going to grow from that, but to really help them build their independence, work on turning in work on time, work on improving their learning for test skills, because some kids don't know how to study for tests. So this is where they start this process. So this is really a good practice so that they can kind of develop some of these skills they might not have. Okay.
I do want to also point out that with Canvas, you're getting immediate feedback. And so sometimes grades can fluctuate a lot, even within one, half trimester or full trimester. So, try not to react very strongly, right? Especially at the first 4 weeks, there may only really be like 4 to 6 grades, right? So obviously the longer we go in the trimester, the more grades there are, the more opportunities to improve the grade. So again, just kind of stay calm when you're talking about grades and let them know your expectations, but also, again, kind of taking in that attitude of we're learning, how can we get better? Because it's not realistic to expect that students are going to be perfect at this right away.
And sixth grade teachers grade a lot easier than seventh and eighth grade teachers because they know that students have not had these kinds of grades before. So they do a lot of prep, they do a lot of practice before tests, they do a lot of work to help kids be successful and reminders for homework and classwork. So there are a lot of options. Thank you also to a parent. They told me what FLASH stood for because I completely forgot, and that is Family, Life, and Sexual Health. Also, a parent asked about their schedule for the day. You, as a parent, don't schedule your child. You are just going to select what classes you want, and then a lovely computer will put it into a system and generate school schedules. And then counselors kind of fix the schedule if there's anything missing or anything that needs to be done. And that they spend a lot of time in August doing that. Okay, and then we're going to move on. And I think this is, Young, do you want me to do this or do you want to do it?
Yeah, I can talk about it. So again, because kids are getting used to kind of having six different teachers and six different set of expectations, that attendance really is important. In fifth grade, there may be a lot of differences between how teachers handle makeup work. But we really at the sixth grade and the middle school level, like really expect kids to be responsible for their learning and responsible for their coursework. So they're even if a child is sick, there will be some extended time, but they are expected to make up the work. And obviously everything, builds on each other in a lot of classes. So it really is important to stay on top of that. We don't expect people to come to school when they're super sick. Like, we don't want that. Please don't send your child to school. But obviously, like if they're like, oh, I have a slight sore throat, like use your best judgment. And there are guides that the district has about when to keep your child home and when to kind of encourage them to come. And again, especially with like higher level coursework, you do need to be a lot more mindful about like any trips that happen during the school year. So, because again, they're not excused from that work, they're expected to make it up.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so with all the changes that are happening, we just wanted to kind of point out again the role of a school counselor. There are school counselors at the elementary school. They do obviously focus more kind of on the behavioral elements, sometimes academics. Those things kind of become a lot bigger at the middle school level. So all school counselors are supporting academics, social emotional growth, and career development for students. For the middle school level, it really is kind of focusing more on the academics and the social emotional, again, because there's a lot of new experiences, interactions that they're having. But yeah, if you have any questions related to academics, the advanced coursework, having to adjust your student schedule, issues between like a teacher and a student, or kind of how they're doing with their pacing, let us know and we're happy to help. We also do serve as the 504 lead and sometimes the coordinator of the 504s. And then if you have any financial assistance needs, you can reach out to either us or the bookkeeper at the schools.
Okay, and note that the school counselor is really the main point of contact and questions, not the homeroom teacher. That's really key.
Mm-hmm.
Counseling and mental health.
Mm-hmm. So we do have two school counselors at each building, and the caseload is based on student last names. So for example, at Pine Lake, I'm the counselor for students with last names M through Z. Again, there's so many things that are going on. They're becoming much more aware of themselves within a group dynamic. And we try to kind of balance and honor like their need to kind of, struggle and kind of work through those things, and kind of honoring like that journey, along with partnering with families. So we do give as much privacy and confidentiality to our students as possible. If it is something that we think it would be really helpful for our parents to know, we strongly encourage it. Obviously, there are some things that are non-negotiables. So if we are worried about a student's safety, either themselves or a friend, those are times when we might be reaching out to parents and say like, sorry, this is something that we need to get more help on. So you can reach out to your counselor if you're wondering specifically what those are, but there are guidelines that every counselor has around those for the district. And then the nice thing is that we also at the middle school level have more access to the school-based Swedish mental health counselors. So Swedish Health, we partner as a district, both at the middle school level and then a little bit at the high school level. And there are additional resources at the high school level. But basically, they're outside counselors that are contracted through Swedish Health that are really focused on meeting with students on a regular basis. So school counselors, because our responsibilities and load can vary throughout the year, we're not necessarily available for regular appointments with students. So the Swedish mental health counselors are really there for students who might be working through a specific issue or concern that really needs like a regular weekly check-in. So some examples of issues that they might be talking about, it might be anxiety, it might be a family change that has happened, It could be about self-image. So those are some examples of that.
The school district recognizes that mental health is one of the big concerns with students, especially in middle and high school. And so that's why we have additional opportunities and resources for mental health counseling at the secondary level also. If a parent asks about bullying, and that is a conversation to be had with your child if your child has a concern or something is going on. And you can definitely report, or you should definitely report to the assistant principal or the principal, or I would encourage you to have your child also reach out to the school principal, assistant principal, or counselor if there's some behavior that's unacceptable and they need help and support in dealing with at school. Here, again, we talked about course guide. We also put it over here. So it's coming out again on February 23rd. And if you go to that website again, one of the things I'm going to show you is over here. I didn't click on the buttons, but for English language arts, for example, your child is going to be in 6th grade English language arts, and then you're going to see the recommendations for them for English language arts at that grade level. And then for okay, and then mathematics, same thing. They have options, and you'll see what the options are for math in 6th grade, and all the information is over here. So you're going to be using this information for electives. You'll see that it's broken down by school because each of the 6 schools, middle schools, have different electives. So at the Issaquah Middle School, for example, you're going to look at what the options are, and then you're going to usually sign up for 2 or 3 just in case you don't get some of the key ones. Like, for example, if your child signs up for drawing and painting, and if they don't get it. But the class that you will definitely get if you sign up for is chorus, band, and orchestra, because the school counselors make sure that kids get those key year-long electives that will also be most likely multiple years electives. But this is a website, once the course catalog is open, that you will be going to and spending some time, because right now it is last year's one that you're looking at, but this is the one on February 23rd. You're going to go here and looking at some of your options for middle school course guide. So when you're choosing your classes, key things to do is to thoroughly read the course request information, review your child's iReady scores. It's a great indicator of success for advanced English, math, and science classes. Another one that's really good to do is talk to your child's 5th grade classroom teacher. The 5th grade classroom teacher might be is a great person and a resource to say, yeah, I think they're ready for this. No, I would recommend, this is why and why not. So questions to ask yourself: is your child mature, well organized, have good executive functioning? Because some of the higher level classes, for example, the advanced science, your child will be with 7th graders. So keep in mind when you do advanced classes, it's not like your 6th grade child will be taking classes with other 6th grade students who are taking an advanced math class. No, your 6th grade child will be with whatever level math students are taking that. So they take, for example, math 2, 3, they will be with a different group of kids, right? And so science, for example, that's the big one I can talk about. So in my science classes, I would have anywhere from only one 6th grade student in my 7th grade science class, or sometimes I might have 6 or 7. But the majority of my class is 7th graders with a few 6th graders in it, okay? And so it's not like there's one class for earth and science where all the 6th graders are taking it. So just keep that in mind for science. And in math, it's also the students are spread out in different levels too. But the big one is talk to your child.
For those who are not familiar with the term executive functioning skills, those are skills such as planning, being able to focus, being able to see the big picture, the things that are going kind of the soft skills that students need to kind of be a good student in general, right? And I feel like middle school is really that time where it's not just about their skills, it's really about managing themselves, right? So we really encourage, we're kind of seeing in like I think across the district in general that those executive functioning skills are something to focus on for fifth grade parents and students. So the more you can like go through a weekly calendar together, think about like, okay, well, this is happening on Saturday, how do we prepare for that? So things like that are going to help them like when they actually start sixth grade.
The other thing I'd recommend, and I think this is a big problem for some parents, but they don't realize they can do that. You don't have to take all of the advanced classes in sixth grade.
Right.
It's self-serve. So you might choose to do an advanced English class and you might advance their math class, but you might want to consider doing on-level science class, right? So some parents think, no, I want to have my child advance for everything. But is your child ready for that? So one of the ways you can do it is start maybe with two and then, go from there. And I will though tell you, once you start on a certain math and science pathway, you really can change. So English, every year you can choose to take advanced or not advanced. But math and science, once you get in that pathway, you're kind of in that pathway. And so keep that in mind because we want kids to have a strong foundation. And so we don't want to accelerate them too much, causing more mental health strain or lower grades or not good foundation in certain skills. And, so just keep that in mind. So that's why we talk about readiness. But you know your child best.
I will say a little caveat. You can adjust your math and science, but they will repeat material. So there's no way to change it without repeating some material. And it will, because again, the building schedules, sometimes it is very challenging to change it. It might not just be like, oh, I want to go from math 2, 3 to math 1, 2 in the same period. It might impact like 3 of their classes and what teacher they have for a class to be able to make that adjustment. So we really want parents to think very carefully about it.
And I can't answer what's the advantage. It depends on what your child wants to do, how mature your child is, what your child, where your child is looking at as they go into college. But I would say, think now, where is your child right now? What are they ready for right now? And as they get older, it's possible in high school to double up and take multiple or certain classes. But if you don't have a strong foundation, it becomes problematic. So, definitely consider that. And what is the point of taking every single advanced class? Like, what do you get for it? And so just keep that in mind. Young, do you want to do this slide? Because especially to point out skipping content and math and science being kind of paired up.
So we've kind of talked about kind of the first 3 points already, but to be aware that when you choose the advanced or different pathway options, that we really are doing that by skipping coursework. So we are assuming that in some other way that your child has covered that material. It's not that it's not important. It's expected that you would already have that exposure. So for example, like with skipping life science, like that's when they're really doing labs and having some exposure to labs. If your child has never done that before and takes some time to kind of get used to new procedures, skipping life science isn't a good choice, right? So for example, maybe your child goes to a really awesome science camp every year that has labs. And so like maybe they might have had that exposure, right? Or maybe they're taking a math class outside of school. And so they've like already been exposed to that and showing that they are retaining and have mastered that information. So showing that they can explain it to another person, that they're doing well on the on like assessments. It's not just about exposure to the material, but that they have really mastered it and kind of internalized that material. So just something to keep in mind. And then again, the more advanced options usually do have like more homework, for example. And Lorna mentioned earlier that they are mixed level classes, and we cannot change our students' class because they're the only, they're one of 3 7th graders with all 8th graders. Like that's just not something we can do with our master schedules. And as I mentioned, like it is hard to either move down without repeating content. I should have mentioned it is almost impossible to move up like after the first 4 weeks of school. So again, look at the guidelines carefully. Every situation I've had where, where someone chose like to go down like a level, like maybe they like qualified for math 2-3, but then they chose 1-2. Usually they will come back and say like, can I move to 2-3? And it's too late at that point. So those district guidelines are really helpful to kind of make sure they're in the right spot. But again, if you're unsure, like, you're like, I don't know if my student can handle it, talk to the 5th grade teacher.
And again, a parent asked, I'm very confused. I struggle to understand skipping of classes. And that is really hard. So I would definitely say it's because some parents are trying to accelerate so quickly and we're trying to give them guidance. But if you're just going to do a standard pathway or, a little bit advanced here and there and standard, the main thing is talk to your child and talk to your classroom teacher first, then look at that. And if you want a little bit more guidance, come back and talk to your child's 5th grade counselor, or you can talk to me or one of the liaisons. The thing is, sometimes parents want us to decide what their child should take, and we can't do it. We can just give you guidelines. But the other reason we talk about this is there's a lot of conversation out in the world about skipping and going on the most advanced science and most advanced math. And there's a rush to get your kid to the top class for graduation, and just ask why. And is this the best for my child? So just slow down and think what is best for my child, and always make the decision based on where is my child right now and what is best for them to take next year, right now. Okay. Based on the guidance and suggestions from the district and the classroom teacher. So if your child is a multilingual learner, they will continue being in the MLL program next year. In the next 2 months, they will take their test, which is the WIDA test, and that will determine if they'll continue being in that class. And in middle school, the multilingual class is its own class, and that class is used to really reinforce academic language if your child needs help in academic language. Okay. But that does mean that your child, if they're in the MLL program, will not have an opportunity to take an elective class in 6th grade. The health room and nurse, very similar. So the nurse is there to help you. And if you have any kind of medical plan, please make sure you're checking in with them, medical conditions. One of the things is I asked the nurses to give me some feedback from the 6th middle school. And things that they told me is in middle school, students start carrying phones, some of them. And a parent asked me this, so I'm going to take a minute to address this question now. All of the middle schools are from the starting bell to the last bell of the day, no phones on campus. Okay. None at lunch, none during transition time, no phones from the time the first bell rings till the end of the school day around 2:45, 2:50, whenever the school ends. Now, because PE is every day for 2 semesters, if your child is not physically able to do PE that day of a couple days, you need to tell your child's PE teacher. If your child just did some kind of surgery or some kind of reason why they can't do it, that is communication between you, the PE teacher, and if it's something big, include the school nurse so we can make accommodations for that. Okay. So if your child has a physical condition that requires them some kind of accommodation, that accommodation might be in a health plan, but sometimes for some students, a health disability or health condition or some kind of concern in medical being of your child might result in a 504 plan. A parent had asked for a 504 plan. And a 504 plan is for students who might need additional support because of some kind of a disability to help them be able to access their education. But this is a conversation between the PE teacher and the school nurse to make sure that they are doing what they need to ensure the child's health. So some students carry inhalers and EpiPen, and in middle school they're allowed to, as long as they have permission from their parent, the physician, and the school nurse. It's written in their plan that they're carrying this. But otherwise, the school is very strict that you cannot have ibuprofen, Tylenol, any kind of medication on the child during the school day. You usually give it to the nurse, and the nurse can call them down if they need to be given some kind of medicine during the course of the day. So keep that in mind. But if your child has a health condition, please make sure that at the end of August, before school starts, you're having a conversation with the school nurse about this. There's mention about this process during the enrollment verification process in August, but sometimes parents forget to follow up and email the school nurse about this. Now, we talked about ASB, but I didn't go into detail about it. So this is the fun and the great stuff coming up. In middle school, you have this thing called ASB. It's a group called Associated Student Body. And when students start middle school or in middle school and high school, the school usually you will see in part of their portal in their payment. So this is a fee. Usually it's around $35. We encourage all students to pay this fee, and this money goes towards funding clubs and sports at school. So in public schools, sports and clubs are not funded. So this money, there's no money to have that. So you noticed in elementary school, there is no ASB fee and there are no sports and clubs in elementary school. But in middle school, they start having this, and to be able to fund it, the uniforms, to pay the advisor to teach that, to be the advisor of the sport, the coach, or the advisor of the club, they need to have some kind of funding for those people, and the money comes out from the ASB funds. So they pay it, it's a one-time fee each year, each school year. And if you have financial difficulties, you can apply for a scholarship or talk to the school counselor. And paying this fee gives the students the opportunity to participate in any school club, any number of school clubs. Usually they can only do maybe two or three because depending on what time that club meets. But my daughter does two clubs because it's 2 different days of the week. Okay. Sports, you can also participate in sports, but let me continue on clubs. So each middle school offers at least 10, 15 different clubs. If there's not a club that your child is interested in, your child can get together with some of their friends and say, oh, I really want to do a book club. And the friends can get together and talk to the ASB coordinator or the assistant principal, say, hey, is there any room to create a new club and try to start this club? So kids have the opportunity. But clubs are a great way for students to find their place in the school, to find people like them interested in same things, similar things than them. Because sometimes the classes, there are so many different classes, sometimes their best friend or their good friends are not in class with them and they get really sad. So joining a club or a sport is a great way for them to find a, be in a group that their friends are, or find friends that are similar to them. For example, one school has a D&D club, which is Dungeons and Dragons club. Some schools have a chess club. Some schools have a robotics club. Some schools have a green team. So what is your child's interest? And look for a club that meets that interest. The other great opportunity is that there are school buses, they're called activity bus, that takes kids home about an hour after school ends. The one harder thing is while there's an activity bus, that activity bus doesn't go to the exact same bus stop. So your child will have to walk further to get home. And that is a note because some parents don't want their kids to walk as much. Sixth grade, it's a little bit harder. But at least there's an activity bus and you can see where it brings your kid home if it's closer to where you can maybe pick them up or if you're comfortable with them walking from there. The clubs have a different day that they start. So when school starts, go and check the website. See what day that club starts meeting, what room, and what teacher is responsible. But remember, this is one of those things that the kids are hearing in the school during that homeroom or whatever that room, the time they have, you know, for school business time. I will also be doing an event specifically about clubs and sports in August with the director of athletics and activities, and he will go into more depth about all of this. And a reminder again, there's an ASB card fee, and there's also something called a sports fee. For sports, if it's a varsity sport, it's or junior varsity sport, it's usually a little bit more money because they're competitive sports, they play more, and those coaches get paid a little bit more money because of all the competitions and travel and so forth. Intramural is where every kid just goes and hangs out and plays that sport for fun. Very often, sixth graders join a lot of the intramural sports just because it's a lot of fun, and like 50 sixth graders join and just play and have fun after school. PE uniforms is also a cost, as we talked about. Yearbook, many kids will buy a yearbook because the last couple of days of school, there's time to sign a yearbook. All kids in sixth grade have to pay a science lab fee. Certain elective classes might have a class fee depending on the type of elective class. If they are renting an instrument, there will be a rental fee. And note, all families, if you need financial assistance, please don't hesitate to talk to your child's school counselor. And then sports and athletics, there's an eligibility for it. You need to have a sports physical. So there's a lot of information around a sports physical. There's also something called final forms, and students will be able to fill out the final forms. Usually late August is when the middle schoolers' final forms are ready for them to do once they've done EVP. And the good news is in high school, sports season starts really early. Half of the kids are practicing football in mid-August. Don't worry, in middle school, all of the sports start at least a week after school begins. So you have time all the way through August to get your sports physical if your child wants to do sports, to fill out the forms and final forms, and to get all the things they need to do for that. I also included a recording if you really want to hear more information now, but there's so much information about middle school. Know this is an option and keep this information to learn about closer to August because there's no rush. There
I
is
do.
no after school program like the before and after school care. In middle school, we do not have a before and after school program. And school physicals, the physicals for sports are usually through your healthcare provider, and
Mhm.
sometimes certain uh, um, they're not the emergency room. What are they called? The urgent care spaces, facilities around Issaquah and other areas. Sometimes for a fee, they will do a sports physical for you if you're not able to get an appointment with your health care provider. But the reason we talk about this now is you have from now until August to try to get a sports physical done if your child is going to be taking doing a sport.
Yeah. They do just need to get it done before the start of their sport that they're interested in. So, for example, there's a little box in the top right there. If they're interested in basketball, girls basketball, you'd need to have the physical done by November 3rd. I totally agree with Lorna. The sooner you do that, the better. I did want to point out that cross country and track are no cut sports. So all students are encouraged to participate in those, and there's no official tryouts for those. The other sports are tryouts, but we do try to include students from all three grades. So someone asked that in the chat.
Okay, so this is we're approaching the end, luckily, so you can start asking questions and advice from parents. This is a learning year. This is a transition. Help your child be organized. Show them strategies on how to keep their binder clean. If they are using lockers, how to organize their lockers, how to organize their binder, how to manage their time. If when to go to the bathroom, you'd be shocked at how many kids are anxious. They're like, when should I go to the bathroom? What do I do? The teacher will talk through them, but they have anxiety about, when's the best time. What happens if you lose something? Where is the lost and found? Check Canvas frequently with your child. Very often, parents will check Canvas and then like tell their child, "I check Canvas and you're missing blah blah blah." really it's easier to check it with them and then teach them what should they be looking for, especially if they don't have good organizational skills. If your child will be using a locker and your middle school uses lockers, help them learn how to use a locker. I know my child in Issaquah Middle School, most of the kids do not use a locker, so she learned how to use a locker and then they didn't need to use it. But other schools, they do. So it depends on your school. Remember, there's no specific parent teacher conference, so remember you need to initiate the conversation but encourage your child really to be the one to initiate and talk to the teacher about questions. Model and practice. For me, one of the biggest things that I had to do was in sixth grade, I had to sit down with my child on email and teach her how to write an email to her teacher because she was scared to talk to her teacher in class. So then we started with strategies. I'm like, okay, say, Miss So and so, can I talk to you after school? Can I come to you during homeroom? I'm missing this. I turn it in. Can you tell me what I can do to make up this assignment? So you know what you're looking for. And for you, no, when you get the slide deck, you'll see this connection, which is who to contact. But there are so many different people who you can call. And in middle school, especially, this becomes a problem because what if I have a question about sports? Who should I talk to? What if you have questions about clubs? Who do I talk to? What if my child's laptop has issues? Who do I talk to? So we have a site, a link to tell you exactly who you can connect for the different questions you might have as a parent. And worst case scenario, if you don't know, just call a school liaison and they'll tell you what to do or who to contact. I had a parent ask, can my child choose two electives? And the answer is no. I had another parent ask, because they only have space for one elective, the other five classes are required. I will be sending out this PowerPoint to all families that are filling out the feedback form, and I will be posting it on the resource page that I had included the link to when I sent you the Zoom link this morning. A parent also asked about SAGE and Merlin programs. So starting in sixth grade, the the highly capable program is still there and the students have the ability to self-select. So students who are in Merlin, they are going to choose the Math 2-3 pathway because they already learned Math 1-2 in their Merlin class. Students in Merlin also most likely will be taking advanced English. So that is the pathway for our Merlin kids to continue on in sixth grade. For students in SAGE, they can talk to their SAGE teacher and their classroom teacher to see what is the best pathway for them as they get into sixth grade. But kids in Merlin for sure have already done the Math 1-2, and so they're more prepared. So for them, it's really not about skipping. So it's only skipping for those kids who choose not, who want to take 2-3 without taking Merlin. So truly, for those kids who are in Merlin, 100% your child will be ready, unless there's a concern with their teacher right now. And so talk to your teacher because while we say that, the reason we talk about that is because many kids, they may not be in Sage or Merlin, but they want to advance their kids in math. And so that's the advice for them. So for that parent in Merlin and Sage, or those parents in Merlin and Sage, to know that. And also, if you have questions about what's best for your child, if you are in the Merlin and Sage program, again, the Merlin and Sage teachers would be the best ones to talk to you about those specific programs. MLL, so MLL, if you're coming from outside the district, your child will be tested if you're not sure if they're in the MLL program. But remember, MLL is for multilingual learners. So if your child is, English is not their primary language that they're speaking and they need help with that, then when they start school, when you fill out your home language survey, it's part of the enrollment process, you will have checked a box that will indicate that your child should be tested to be in the MLL program. So the criteria is when you fill out the form, they will test you and then you will be put in this program with parent permission to get support. Okay, and we're almost to the end and then we'll go to the question. So just take a picture of this if your phones are available, just because this is the events at your school. You can also look for these dates that you will see that will be posted, or hopefully you'll see an email or on the bulletin on Thursday. But just so you know that these are events coming up for you to go to the school to do this. Your child, by the way, will be doing it during school time. This is only for you. Okay. So this is for parent night versus the child's visit. So keep that in mind. Please take a photo of it, or when you fill out the feedback form, I will come back to it, or I'll try to come back to it later. Okay, back to school. Remember, there's a big event. Three big things to do in August. Do the enrollment verification process. That's where you're going to do the fees, buy the ASB card, all of the buy the yearbook, pay for the certain materials. I'm going to give you a tip as as a parent. They very often they require a math spiral. Buy it from the school. Finding the math spiral anywhere is so difficult. I just buy it from the school. It's the cheapest. That's just me as a middle school math parent for the past 3 years. If there's going to be a program called Where Everyone Belongs, try to make sure you're back from vacation in time for that event. It's usually the week before school begins because it's a lovely activity for all sixth grade students. They get to meet other kids. They get to be in small groups. An eighth grader leads the groups. They show them around. They do tours. They answer questions. So this is part of the welcoming, helping the kids learn to belong. They can ask these questions from their eighth grade web leader. And then throughout the year, they get to, see this eighth grade web leader in this leadership activity and hopefully have someone that they can ask questions to. Usually, there's also a locker assignment at that time, and students can have an opportunity to practice opening their locker combination. That time is also a good time to, once you've paid for a PE uniform, to pick up your PE uniform. Teachers are not going to expect you, your PE teacher is not going to expect you to have your PE uniform the first day or two of school, but definitely by the second week or a week, a couple days into school, which is usually after Labor Day, the PE teachers are going to expect that the children have their PE uniforms and are dressing up for PE because they'll teach them how to do that. A parent, by the way, asked me about showering during PE. Honestly, most kids don't take a shower, but if your child wants to take a shower, they definitely have the opportunity. The kids usually have a certain amount of time to get from the gym back into the locker room to do all of this. It depends on what your child wants to do and how they do it. And then who to contact. There are some different protocols in middle school because there are a couple extra people in the office. There's a specific person that's just a bookkeeper, and there's a specific person that's just the school registrar. Okay, and they have their own offices. So when you pay fees and fines, and you have questions, you need to talk to the school bookkeeper in the middle school. And for registration enrollment questions, if there's a problem with a child's schedule, there's a school registrar, or you can also talk to the counselor for that. But there's a registrar that's in a different office in the middle school. The front office staff includes the person who will answer the phone and does mainly attendance and will answer general different questions about the school. The school also has 2 assistant principals, a principal, which is different. There's 1 assistant principal and principal at the middle schools. Okay, and if you have any questions, here are the contacts. Someone had asked me about that. It's on this last slide that you can ask them about. Young has put the feedback form a couple times in here. Let me put that in. And Young, if you have questions in your chat, you may go ahead and start answering, and I'll go through my chat and start answering those too.
Okay. I think I've answered all the ones, or you've answered them too. So I don't have anything else, but feel free to put your question in the chat. Would we miss any?
So one of the questions I just got was, when do they publish the web date? Honestly, I would hope, and I know Young and I talked about this earlier, we wish the schools would share that date in June to all the 5th grade families. But for sure, they'll do it by August, early August. But check and see, because we will try, but sometimes they don't have that ready till like EVP time, the mid-August.
Yeah.
But know that it's usually the week right before school starts.
Yeah. Yeah. So example, at Pine Lake, we actually do it the day before school starts to try to get the most kids. Someone asked if we travel in August, will we miss? Potentially. So for example, we have our web day the day before, but there's a day like a week or two before where they can pick up their locker assignments, practice their lockers, pay any fees, things like that. You might miss that day, but you can always like arrange to come in another time, like before school starts, or take some extra time on that web day depending on your school, and you can reach out to the front office about that. If they are in competitive sports that are demanding, do you have any advice on how to balance sports and academics? I would talk to your school counselor about that. We do have some students who are on a hybrid schedules, for example, who homeschool for certain periods and then come into school for certain periods. So depending on how rigorous your student's schedule is, like that might really be the best option. The ISD does have an online learning program. So even if you're like, ooh, I don't want to homeschool, you could try to do a hybrid with ISD online learning. There are deadlines. So again, it's good to kind of talk to your school counselor before the end of this school year.
But I do think that the online classes start in middle school. I mean, sorry,
They
in
do.
seventh grade. I don't
No,
know.
there's actually some now that start in sixth
Okay,
grade. Yeah.
perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
And then I had a question on after school care programs. We don't have that. So if you want your child to go to a after school location that has care, and a parent had also asked me this in their registration form, you can opt for your child to take the bus to the one bus somewhere and then coming home, they could potentially get off at a different stop, or if the school bus goes somewhere that is close to an after school program, you can opt to do that, or maybe an adult who is going to be responsible for taking care of your child, till you come home. So,
Mhm.
so that is an option. So the transportation, it is possible, and especially in elementary school, some families do that. They might have the child getting on the bus from a daycare facility and then coming home to a different location. So you just need to communicate that to the school. But because kids really get on the bus and get off the bus on their own, the school classroom teachers or even the school is not really responsible for getting your child on the bus or off the bus. So you just need to communicate with your child and transportation what bus route your child is going to be taking, because they have a list of who's on the bus. And so if the bus is full, they might say, oh, we don't have space for you on the bus because you're not on our list of kids who should be taking the bus. Um, okay.
Someone
Yeah.
asked, will there be another session after the course catalog release? Each individual school will do like a Zoom presentation of the course catalog for incoming fifth grade families. In addition, I don't know, I guess I shouldn't say in addition, but there's the family info night, and then they usually offer like a Q&A Zoom session. So all your questions, you should have time to ask your questions. But you can also just reach out to the fifth grade teacher or the fifth grade school counselor, and they should be able to clarify a lot of things. Is the 6-week progress report its own report? No, it's just that Canvas would be expected to be updated at a certain time. And again, it's a snapshot in time of how your student is doing. Do students get exceptions if it's national tournaments? I'm not sure what kind of exceptions you're looking for. So if you could specify that.
I'm
If
wondering I'm wondering if they're talking, because when I was a science teacher, very often parents would say, my child is competing in gymnastics and they're going to be absent before gymnastics tournaments and everything. And my answer was usually, well, just make sure they're checking their page in Canvas and they are responsible for making up their own work. And anything that's not made up, unfortunately, is unexcused. So it's something that you are going to have to make sure your child can keep up with. And so those are the kinds of things we're asking parents to keep in mind, because, if you're going to be very active in certain sports and then you're also trying to do all these advanced classes or rigorous classes, it might be harder to catch up and keep up with all of it. Your child might be able to do that, but that is where it's really a balancing act. Someone asked to share the QR code, and I did. Someone asked, is there a certain score to opt into advanced math or advanced English? And yes, we will be posting recommendations. I think it's like a 4.2 iReady for math. And so you can
I
check,
think
and
it's
I'm not
actually a little
sure.
higher. It's
Okay,
going to be a
so
little higher. Yeah.
yeah,
It
so
hasn't been
just check.
published yet, but
Yeah, but it's they're going to be publishing that, and so just check it out. And so iReady is what you're going to be using for now, and then SBA, yes, you're right, it comes out later. So look for the SBA scores for the iReady scores for now. Once the SBA scores, so the thing is, in March when you make these course selection, let's say May, June comes out and you're looking at your child's iReady scores and you're like, ooh, I don't know about this, or I'm not sure about this. At that time, you might want to email your child's counselor and say, this is what I noticed on the SBA score, and this is what I'm thinking. What should I do? And the school, is that possible, Young? Have you seen that happen where the school counselor will communicate any change a parent might want to make in May, June, based on scores before the final schedules are really finalized in the summer and August?
we haven't seen that yet. And I'm not sure what the guidance will be from the district around that, to be honest. Yeah.
Okay. So parent asked me about IEP, and hopefully you had seen the email from the district about the IEP transition. So if your child has an IEP, and if you did not go to the IEP transition event earlier today, check in with your case manager. Your case manager for your child with an IEP is going to have a meeting with a case manager in sixth grade as they kind of do a transfer of student case manager to case manager. But you can talk to your case manager and have them give you guidance for what are some transition, what are some classes your child will be taking, because they'll help you choose your courses for your child next year. If you're traveling in August, um, early August, no. After the 19th, 20th, even 18th, I cannot guarantee anything. And I will not have these dates available. You can contact the school in June if you want and just ask your middle school and see if they have it ready. Um, because I'm not sure at this time. So in March, so next month, you are going to be choosing your dates. And when you go to the middle school for the event, they will give you a deadline. So during the course selection event at your middle school, the school counselors will see, please make sure you have your child's courses selected. And remember, you're going to be doing all of the selection process in that's important, in student access. So your child will learn how to go into their student access account. They'll give you the information for the password and username. They'll go into that, they'll give you instructions, and then your child will choose their classes in their student access account. Okay, so all of that will happen with the directions, and that's the key. The reason you're going to be going to this event in late February, early March, the school counselor will give you instructions on how the course selection process will occur. By then, the recommendations will be released from the district for parents to look more deeply into. And then you will probably have about 2 week window to get some information from the classroom teacher, maybe to chat with a school counselor, to look at your child's iReady score, to talk to your child and figure out the best course of action for your child. Okay, we are done with the session, so I'm going to, will we use Teams? Teams, I'm not sure for where. Your child doesn't really use Teams because all of the classes are live. Your child is not going to do anything at the middle school on Teams, as far as I know. Okay. If you're not in your boundary school, you have to arrange your own transportation and don't get a bus. Is that correct? Yes. So if you are going to apply to go to a school that is not within your school boundary and there's no bus, you do have to arrange transportation for that school. The math 2-3, someone said that it was 4.07. The reason I said it was 4.2 is I believe they're going to increase that recommended list because note that's from last year. And so based on, they ran a report as to the scores for students, iReady scores that were A, because at a certain level, they noticed that a lot of the kids were getting Bs or they foundationally they weren't good, as strong in math. And so using the report comparative to the iReady scores, I believe they're going to be posting new guidance on February 23rd. So this is last year's guidance. So keep that in mind. Okay, and it'll be coming. So at this time, I just have the feedback form out. There's also the link in the chat. So if you have questions, I know a parent had raised their hand to ask the question. You can unmute and ask the question out loud, or you can enter it into the chat. While I'm waiting, I'm going to answer two more questions. Sorry. Are clubs competitive? Math club, I mean, it's a competition if they're going to math Olympiads or if the school has that. Not all schools have certain clubs or geography club, like a spelling bee club, chess club. It's they play games, but it's really for fun. Are there field trips? It depends on the school, honestly. My child did not go to any field trips in sixth through eighth grade so far, but maybe some schools do that. So,
I have a quick question.
okay.
So, is there a basic score on iReady that needs to be attained in order to a kid to go to advanced math 1, 2, or advanced English?
Yes, as I was saying, they're going to give that recommendation on February 23rd, and it'll be posted on the website in the course catalog area.
So, the classroom teacher will be providing that recommendation, or will it be an email from school district?
No, you will be going to the event at the middle school, and they will talk about that information. And then in addition, you're going to be recommended to go to the course guide. And when you go to the course guide and the course planning uh, website, you will see information on that there. So for example, again, this is from last year, but if you look at last year's recommendation, I don't know how much the English one will change, but over here, for the advanced language arts last year, okay, this is for last year,
Mm-hmm.
was 4.0 on reading was recommended, okay, for
Okay.
the iReady score. So as I was saying earlier, I believe there was conversation that in math at least it was going to change, but this was a recommendation for advanced language art. And I would say the same thing for if you're planning on having a child be in science, please, that book is very hard um, in biology because it's a 10th grade book. So they will have a recommendation for that too over here. Yeah. Level
That's
4
level
in
4.
both, yeah, for both reading and math. So 4.0, at least in iReady for math and for ELA. Okay, thank you. That was a good question. But this is where you can see last year's. I don't think it's going to change for science and English, but for math, I heard it was going to change. Okay, next question.
Hi.
Does
I have also a question, and I think you talked about this, but I'm not sure I got it right. If I register my son for Math 2, 3, and um, he finds it hard, is it possible to change it with Math 1, 2?
Probably, but it could potentially impact multiple classes or periods in their day. So we don't run, it's not possible to run like math 1, 2, and 2, 3 the same periods throughout the day. So sometimes, math 2, 3 might be offered when we don't offer math 1, 2. So it could be like we have to flip-flop 2 classes. Sometimes we've had to do like up to 3 classes. And when we do that, sometimes it means that the teacher for that class will change. So
And the
Yes.
elective might
it's just
change.
somewhat disruptive. Yeah. I will say
It
it's
is.
easier
I
to
was
change
just
it
thinking
down
that maybe
than to
there
go
is
up.
another class, math 1, 2. At the same time, he used to have that. I don't know how to explain in English very well. Sorry.
That's
To
okay.
switch it from math 2, 3 to math 1, 2. Not to have them at the same time, to do them both. Just to change it, to go back to 1, 2.
Yeah. It's
Because
possible, but disruptive.
It's
yeah,
possible
Yeah.
that it will impact their schedule.
Yeah.
The whole schedule may be impacted, including the elective class and also for other classes, the teacher they have. So the earlier they make the decision, like within that first week, the better, but it still may impact everything. So they definitely recommend not waiting like 3 or 4 weeks into it, because then it's going to be much more disruptive.
I was
And
thinking it more because it's hard to understand, to figure it out if it's too difficult or not in 1 week. It's like, I don't
well,
know, for sure.
that's
So
why we
again,
recommend
Well,
the
only
iReady
maybe after
score.
1 month or 2, I was thinking.
Well, that's the reason we recommend the iReady score, and also looking at where their level is. And if
Mhm.
they are not familiar with that, if they've not learned it and you're skipping the content because they've never learned it, that means their foundation is going to be weak because they're not going to know some of these key things because they did not do math 1 or math 2 because
I
they
agree,
missed it.
but it's
yeah.
not the case. Actually, the I ready score is very good, and also he started learning sixth grade math, 6, 7 math, grade math, simultaneous with 5 grade math, which he learns at school. So
Yeah. So
I
talk
think
to the
he will be
teacher.
fine. He'll
Like
be fine.
they would have a good idea too of what he's capable of.
They are very nice. Teachers are very nice. Sometimes they won't say anything, just to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
the next iReady scores will probably be released by March, but
Okay.
I thought the January scores were already sent out. So you can double check with your classroom teacher about that. But parents were asking about activities, and you already saw what athletics were there. But just
Thank
so
you.
everyone knows, you're welcome. On every school's website, under the student tab, there's a link that's called activities. It's a great thing to go and visit with your child, just because it talks what ASB is a little bit more and how the funding from ASB comes, but it also gives you a list of different clubs that are available at your school. So here are the clubs in Cougar Mountain. So you can look at Issaquah Middle, and in Issaquah Middle, same thing. You can go to activities and you'll see the different activities at Issaquah Middle. And so all of the websites have the same way, same link, so you can see what clubs are
Давай,
available.
дочь, ложись.
Okay.
Водичку пьешь? Это
Okay, thank you. Okay, scores are getting okay. So if your child is coming from private school, talk to your child's teacher in 5th grade, but you should also, what would you recommend, Young?
I mean, I think the 5th grade teacher is probably the best resource. Once you learn about the classes that we offer, you can kind of share with them, and they should be able to provide some guidance based on the assessments that they're using and what they're seeing in class, right? Because some of it is about pacing, right? So they're saying like, how does your student handle like, kind of the pace of class? Are they advocating for themselves? Do they, actually ask questions and feel comfortable talking to the teacher? Yeah, again, it's kind of a mix of like both their ability, but also those soft skills as well when you're taking advanced classes.
Also, if you're really unsure, you may email me and I can put you in contact with Tosa, which is a teacher on special assignment like me, but her job is for math curriculum, and she can give you just a little bit more information about what's in the math curriculum. And I can also look for the website and some information online that talks about what's covered in math 1, 2, and 3. So you can share that with your child's fifth grade teacher, and they can tell you what they think and about the placement.
Someone asked, my students in the sci-tech program, do you have any recommendations for science? I still don't, because I think I'm not sure exactly what they cover every year, but I don't know, Lorna, if you have any specific information or feedback on that.
I have like general recommendation because you have seen students coming from that program. Of course, already and recommendation from teacher override everything, but based on your experience, because they already have had homework and science as a course, and they are generally strong. Especially if they are a student, they are really strong. They're closer to, like you talked about, a learning program specifically. But I would say this is like a next after that. What is general recommendation and your experience working with those students?
Yeah, I don't know exactly what the science curriculum is that they've covered. I would ask, is it similar to the sixth grade life science curriculum? And if they say yes, then definitely I would have them go to earth and space science, especially because they are kind of used to, like, a higher level of thinking, having responsibilities around homework and things like that. But again, it can vary from student to student. So I would talk to the teacher.
I know my daughter really wanted to do a dissection, and in sixth grade, they do the frog dissection.
Yeah.
In sixth grade, you spend a lot of time learning how to write a lab report, how to write a hypothesis, how to write a conclusion, how to gather data, how to analyze data. And so, in my experience, when students had skipped that sixth grade class, when they got to seventh grade, they had to catch up a little bit more on their own. So it depended on how quickly they could pick up those scientific reasoning, scientific problem solving, and critical thinking skills. So as you said, Young, they've had experience taking some kind of summer course camps, so forth. Also, if you take the life science, earth science, physical science in ninth grade, your child can take biology. In 10th grade, they can take chemistry. In 11th grade, they can take physics. In 12th grade, they can take like an AP chemistry, AP biology, AP physics. And so they can have like many science classes and graduate. So, I really don't see a loss in taking the regular pathway, just because if a colleges are just looking for 3 lab sciences, and they're going to get that, easily in 9th, 10th, and 11th grade. We had a question, is iReady available in the summer? So last year, the day after school ended, they sent out the iReady scores from the last iReady test. But really, you will get that score again, and it'll be sent to you the end of June. But you should use the iReady score from from January. I don't know why I said August. From January. And then if things really change, they don't really want to change the child's schedule too much, but honestly, if you're going to make any change or have a realization, or your child's like, Mom, I really don't want to, I really want to, sending that email to the school counselor in June or sometime over the summer, better than starting the school year in a certain class and then having to redo the whole schedule. And sometimes it's too late, because they already have the schedule, and the counselors like Young are already kind of hand fixing like 200-300 schedules. And so it's a lot of work. So I'm sorry, Young. So yeah. So I
think it
don't
was
want
only 70 last fall.
Yes. And so that
Yeah,
meant
it's still a
that
lot.
teachers, students chose well, but it is a lot of work, I know, to be kind of changing everyone's schedule at the last minute. So can students use iReady for practice over the summer? Typically, that's a great question, and I don't know that question.
I don't know either,
Take
yeah.
note. Yeah, I'm going to take note and ask. I don't think it is, but I can ask.
I will say for the science pathway too, it's not really like an official pathway, but if your student, if you wanted for them to take bio in 8th grade, but still have live science. The district does offer an online earth and space science course for an additional fee. It is definitely not as robust as the earth and space science in building, but science departments, like at least like at our school, and I know at Beaver Lake, throw it out there as another option that your student could do if they really wanted to accelerate the pathway in a different way, like to still have life science and biology.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So question was, are joining math clubs in school based on grades? No, not at all. And it's the math club is very often they have like a tutoring help session for math. And Young, is there a math club at Pine Lake, like a math Olympiad?
So we have two things. So we have a math Olympiad that is tryouts for that. There is also like a homework club where you could get more support around subjects. And so we do offer math support in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you wanted to mention?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so it also depends on the school, because I know when I was at Issaquah Middle, I was a math Olympiad advisor. And so we had it for a couple of years, and then there was no one interested in it, so it kind of left. So it really depends on who all are interested in it. So it depends on your school also. So parents said, so we could do life science in grade 6 and online earth space in grade 6. Please, this is not something we're recommending. These are options, because the main thing I think I'm also recommending is keep your child's mental health and time to do activities, violin or music lessons and sports activities, and having that balance. So that's one of the reasons we don't really recommend. We just give advice and like, this is what to consider in thinking, not really suggestions and this is what you should take. Okay, is there a website? Yeah, so you have to go to the school district's website, and you have to find the online program. And the online program, sometimes it can be hard to navigate there. And this is not online school. It's different than online school. Okay. Here you go. So this one is all of them, part-time online credits. And I'm just going to put this control copy. I'm just going to put this in the chat just because sometimes it can be hard to navigate to this page. So it kind of shows you what classes you can take. And so going to the middle school link, it'll show you what options you have for middle school classes.
It is, yeah. And it is important to note that these are all asynchronous classes. It's not like an outschool type program where a teacher is running a Zoom course. It is all asynchronous. They do have an assigned teacher through a program called Accelerate Education that the district partners with. The curriculum is not the same as what we use in building. So, if you are thinking about an online course, please talk to the school counselor in your building so that they can kind of guide you through that. There might be recommendations that they have, like based on what class that you're thinking about or previous student experience, things like that.
Okay. Any other questions? Ooh, 8:51, yeah. If you don't have any questions, you're welcome to leave. I'm sorry you're on here so long. So please drop out, say bye. Thank you very much for coming. Young and I can stay on for another, I don't want to promise extra time, Young. I'm going to
it's fine. I can stay on for like 10 minutes. And to be clear, all school counselors are created equal, in my opinion. I just happen to be available.